Good afternoon, class. I hope you're all doing well. I've got a short lecture for you today. Just want to touch on a couple of things regarding the conclusion paragraph and also the editing phase of the essay. And we'll also take a look at the essay rubric, and then I'll have a few thoughts on the Allegory of the Cave, which is the reading that is also due this weekend. So first, I did touch on the conclusion last time. I think I went over all of the various parts of the essay. But I do want to reiterate some things about the conclusion in this video. So the conclusion paragraph is what I like to refer to as the least important and most difficult part of the essay. Now, don't take that to mean you don't need to try hard on your conclusion. You want every aspect of your essay to be good. But it is the least important because you have already essentially done everything you are going to do in the first few paragraphs. The intro, the body paragraphs. You should have dealt with the vast majority of the things that you are going to be dealing with. When you reach the conclusion, the goal is really just to wrap it up, right? To put a bow on the present, so to speak. But how do we do this? And I find what most of my students tend to believe when they come to me from high school and various other English teachers. They've been told to repeat the argument in the conclusion. Now, this is not something that I disagree with completely. In fact, I understand the reasoning for doing this. You want to be clear and summarize your argument so that your reader walks away with a complete, concise picture. But I don't really understand why this is necessary because you have already made your argument. And really what you're trying to do in your conclusion is not simply restate or repeat, but to achieve a tone of closure and to provide your reader with a sense that the argument or the essay, whatever, has been properly wrapped up, right? So what do we do instead of repeating ourselves? There's a couple of things we can do. You have the opportunity to be open-ended about things. You have a lot more freedom in the conclusion. You can speculate about something. Speculation as to what might happen in the future, for example, if the argument you've put forth is not considered. You can ask open-ended questions or even provocative questions to leave your reader going, wow, I never really thought about that. What is my answer to that? You can predict the future. Or you can simply address any loose ends in your argument, anything that's still open-ended, stuff that you haven't quite dealt with, that you didn't really have room to deal with in the body paragraphs, but you do have room in the conclusion. And so you can see why I say least important, most difficult, because that's very difficult. How do you say everything once you've already put forth your entire paper, right? What else is there to say? So as long as you achieve the tone of closure, you're in good shape with the conclusion. So what is the tone of closure? What do I mean by that? Well, if you've ever been watching someone give a speech, you can usually tell when that speech is going to end because the person will start to say things like, and so, furthermore, and to leave you pondering, I will suggest, right? And you hear that and everybody starts shuffling and getting their book bags and getting ready to leave. That's kind of how you want to make your tone sound when you're writing your conclusion. You want to achieve the tone of closure. Make your reader feel that your essay has been wrapped up perfectly and there isn't really much more to say. Okay? So you have a lot of freedom there. It can be kind of stressful. So I would say definitely don't consider it the most important part. If you're going to stress over the thesis and the topic sentences. But the conclusion is definitely one of those things where the best conclusions are the ones that don't repeat and that achieve the tone of closure and that leave your reader thinking. So try to do that. Figure that out, right? Okay. Now that I've waxed on about the conclusion, I will mention some other final editing tips. So the editing phase is very important. A lot of people sort of shirk the editing phase, and this is a mistake. 20% of the final grade is grammar and punctuation, so it's very important to edit so that you catch those errors. And you also want to edit for structural content as well, and organizational content, and development and support, and all those things. So there are different tricks, different things you want to look for when you're editing. The first thing I want to talk about is wordiness. Wordiness is a problem because when you put a word count or expected word limit, like you have to get to 1,000 words, people tend to kind of get close and then sort of be like, oh man, I don't have enough words. Let me go in and just add some words. And the problem is that when you add a bunch of words, when you use a lot of words to say what it is that you need to say, you water down what it is that you're trying to say. You sort of remove some of the potency or the impact. Believe it or not, it's a lot better to be concise and direct, right? Which may be a contradiction, as I said, in a word count, but you kind of have to find that balance, right? So how can we deal with wordiness? Well, if you remember the handy little website that I showed you, it's called the Purdue Owl, and I believe I have the tab up somewhere. If not, I will pull it up real quick. Yeah, it looks like I lost it. Let me pull it up real quick. The Purdue Owl, remember, OWL stands for Online Writing Lab, is a great free resource for all students. It has several style guides and all that fun stuff, but it also has a lot of great exercises that you can do. And so there are some exercises in wordiness. Let me see. Let me share my screen here. All right. Eliminating wordiness. Exercise 1. So what they have done here is, oh my gosh, these ads. Sorry for the ads, guys. Not sure how to make that stop. There we go. What we are going to do is go through each of these sentences, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through like why it's wordy and what we could probably do. I may not get the answers exactly like they do, but pretty much you can tell like what words can be taken out without changing the meaning of the sentence. So we'll start with number 2 here. Although Bradley Hall is regularly populated by students, close study of the building as a structure is seldom undertaken by them. Now, this one is wordy for lots of different reasons, but one of the things that jumps out to me right away, the building as a structure, that seems to me a little bit redundant. Seldom undertaken by them. I wonder if we could restructure this to say, although Bradley Hall is regularly populated by students, they rarely study the building closely. I don't even know if you need all this undertake and all this stuff, but we'll see what they got. We'll check out their answers in the end. Here's number 3. He dropped out of school on account of the fact that it was necessary for him to help support his family. Okay, lots of stuff going on here. You got to ask yourself when you get a sentence like this, what is the message? What is the message in the most direct, concise way? So I can already tell you the way to fix this one. He dropped out of school to support his family. How many words do we get rid of there? Quite a few, right? So you got all this extra stuff in here, and it just doesn't, all it does is water it down. You can see that, right? Here's number 4. It is expected that the new schedule will be announced by the bus company within the next few days. The bus company will announce the new schedule in the next few days. To me, you're making it much shorter. Number 5, there are many ways in which a student who is interested in meeting foreign students may come to know one. There are many ways in which a student can meet foreign students, right? I think the interest is implied. Like, why would you want to meet, why would you go out of your way to meet foreign students if you weren't interested in it, right? But we'll see what they say. Number 6, it is very unusual to find someone who has never told a deliberate lie on purpose. Right? Okay, this one is a repetition problem or a redundancy problem. Deliberate lie on purpose. What does deliberate mean? It means on purpose or purposeful, right? So you're basically saying a purposeful lie on purpose, which is totally repetitive and unnecessary. It is very unusual to find someone who has never told a deliberate lie. That might be a good way to do it. Number 7. Trouble is caused when people obey the rules that have been established for the safety of all. Trouble is caused when people disobey safety rules. I mean, why, again, these are things that are implied, that these rules have been established for safety. If you call them safety rules, you can condense that application into just a single word, condense that to just a single word. 8. A campus rally was attended by more than 1,000 students. 5 students were arrested by campus police for disorderly conduct, while several others are charged by campus administrators with organizing a public meeting without being issued a permit to do so. All right. A campus rally was attended by more than 1,000 students, and 5 were arrested by campus police for disorderly conduct, while several others were charged by, do we have to say campus? I mean, maybe here, you distinguish the campus police from the regular police, but here, I mean, I would just say, you said they were students and then you're going to bring up administrators. I don't know that you need campus there. I'm not sure. With organizing a public meeting without a permit, you don't need to say being issued a permit to do so. You can just say without a permit, because permit means, what is a permit? It is permission to enact the rally. Okay, number 9. The subjects that are considered most important by students are those that have been shown to be useful to them after graduation. The subjects that students consider most important are the ones that are the most useful after graduation. I think that's close. In the not too distant future, college freshmen must all become aware of the fact that there is a need for them to make contact with an academic advisor concerning the matter of the major. Ooh. In the future, college freshmen should be aware that there is a need for them to make contact with an academic advisor regarding a major. I think that would be a way to make it much shorter. In our company, there are wide open opportunities for professional growth with a company that enjoys an enviable record for stability in the dynamic atmosphere of aerospace technology. Whew. For me, the one that sticks out with this one is the use of the word company twice. It's like, do you need the word company twice in the sentence? Probably not. In our company, there are wide open opportunities. Like, what's the difference between a wide open opportunity and opportunity? I'm not sure we get much from this modifier here. Maybe something. In our company, there are opportunities for professional growth. I don't know. Do we get rid of the first company? Well, we'll see what they do. That one's a little bit confusing. Some people believe in capital punishment while other people are against it. There are many opinions on the subject. Many people are for or against capital punishment. And also, that's an example of a sentence that doesn't tell me much, right? There are many different factors in X and Y. You got to be specific. And if you're going to tell me that some people are for something and some people are against it, like, isn't that the case with everything, right? So I'm not sure that that's really even a sentence you would want in your essay. So let's go see the answers here. All right, many local we didn't do that one. Bradley Hall is usually filled with students who do not study the building as a structure. Okay, they left building and structure in there. I think that's a little redundant. He dropped out of a school to support his family. Okay, we got that one. The bus company will probably announce its schedule during the next few days. We got that one. Any student who wants to meet foreign students can do so in many ways. That one was a little different from what we got, but it was close. Rarely will find someone who's never told a deliberate lie. That one we got. Disobeying safety regulations causes trouble. Close enough. 5 out of more than 1,000 students at a campus rally were arrested for disorderly conduct, and several others were charged by campus administrators with organizing a public meeting without a permit. That's actually a little bit better than the one we came up with. Students think that the most important subjects are those that would be useful after graduation. Okay. Soon, college freshmen must realize that they need to contact their advisors about their choices of majors. Okay. Our company provides opportunities for professional growth and stability in the dynamic field of aerospace technology. Good. There are people who are for and people who are against capital punishment. Okay, so that is one way to do it. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you really quick, and that's the second wordiness exercise. We won't go much into this. You can check this out yourself if you want. But one way that you can deal with wordiness is by combining each sentence group into one concise sentence. So you can combine sentences. As long as you follow the proper grammar rules, which is usually to use like coordinating conjunctions and stuff, you can usually deal with wordiness by combining sentences. The cliff dropped to reefs 75 feet below. The reefs below the steep cliff were barely visible through the fog. Well, here we've got the reefs mentioned twice, so we don't. If we combine these sentences, we don't have to mention the reefs below the steep cliff. We can get rid of that, right? The cliff dropped to reef 75 feet below, which were barely visible through the fog, right? So we use a comma and a conjunction, and we got it. Okay, number 2. Their car is gassed up. It is ready for the long drive. The drive will take all night. Their car is gassed up and ready for the long night's drive, or something like that. Sometimes Stan went running with Blanche. She was a good athlete. She was on the track team at school. Sometimes Stan went running with Blanche, who was a good athlete and on the track team at school. All right. Taylor brought some candy back from Europe. It wasn't shaped like American candy. The candy tasted kind of strange to him. Taylor brought some European candy, or Taylor brought some candy back from Europe, which wasn't shaped like American candy and tasted strange to him. We don't need the kind of. Kind of doesn't tell. Kind of strange or strange, it doesn't tell us much. I know I said we wouldn't finish them, but I lied. Government leaders like to mention the creation of new jobs. They claim that these new jobs indicate a strong economy. They don't mention that low-wage jobs without benefits and security have replaced many good jobs. Government leaders like to mention the creation of new jobs, and claim that these jobs indicate a strong economy, but they don't mention that low-wage jobs without benefits and security have replaced many good jobs. Okay, we'll see what they say. The cliffs dropped to the reef 75 feet below, which were barely visible through the fog. Their car is gassed up and ready for an all-night drive. So they got rid of the whole long drive thing. They just said all night. That's long, right? Sometimes Stan went running with Blanche, a good athlete on the track team at school. Taylor brought some strange tasting candy back from Europe that wasn't shaped like American candy. Okay, that one they just restructured the sentence completely. And then government leaders like to mention the creation of new jobs, claiming these jobs indicate a strong economy, but ignoring the fact that low-wage jobs without benefits and security have replaced many good jobs. Okay, and that is how you deal with wordiness, all right? Woo. Okay, so what else is on the agenda? Hang on a second. A couple other things here. All right, so we dealt with wordiness. The other thing I want to mention is called an alien landing. So you don't want wordiness, and you don't want alien landings either. So what is an alien landing? Well, that's when the alien comes out. No. Okay. An alien landing is an expression I use to refer to a quote that does not have a lead-in statement. Okay, what is a lead-in statement? It's some sort of indication of where the quote came from. So if you were to say, kelp forests are extremely vital to the ecosystem, and that's your topic sentence, then you just have a quote, and it's about statistics. Kelp forests are home to this many animals and this and this. I read that and I go, where did this quote come from? Who is this? What is the source? So you always want a lead-in statement. According to one scholarly journal, according to such and such, according to NASA's homepage, right? Give a lead-in statement so that quote doesn't just... Now, hopefully, most of you are not using quotes from your first essay because I haven't really taught you much about researching sources. So if you are getting sources, you are taking a risk, and I hope that you are able to discern a legitimate source from a non-legitimate one. But you still want to know this for future essays. Watch out for the alien landing. Got to have it to where the alien landing is dealt with. Okay. The next thing on the list. Oh, first person. So depending on your strategy, you can use first person. The one where first person is going to be most commonly used is narration, right? Because if you're telling a story about the time you spent at summer camp as a child, you're going to use I, you're going to use me, you're going to use my, all those first person pronouns you're going to use, okay? But if you're not using the narration strategy, you should actually try to avoid first person. There are a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is that when you refer to yourself, your ego, your being, you tend to bring your biases more into your perspective because you're worried. You think that the goal is to tell the reader what you think, right? What your opinion is. So it can affect subjectivity to some degree. The other problem with this is that using the first person implies expertise. Okay, saying I think, I believe, I feel. If you're speaking on a academic subject with those sorts of proclamations, I think, I feel, it should be because you are an expert. So, for example, if you were like a nutritionist, a very, very good diet scientist or something that understood food very well and had the degrees to go with it, then you would be qualified. You would say, well, I feel based on X and Y that this is very healthy. Okay, well, that is okay for you to say I because you are a credible professional. But what if you're a college student? Well, that's a little different, right? If you're a college student, then you don't have the credibility. So if you say I feel this, it's like, okay, who are you, right? Now, one day you will be someone. I'm not trying to belittle you or anything. But that, the whole reason that you go to college is to accrue the credentials to function in the community. So if without those credentials, you really shouldn't refer to yourself, right? So that's one thing. Try to eliminate the first person, and you'll find that there's always a way to do it. The next thing is word variance. You want to make sure that you use different words as you go along in your essay. Don't use the same word back to back, particularly in the same sentence, but also just in general, right? Find synonyms. Now, when I say find synonyms, find them without the use of a thesaurus. And here's why. A thesaurus can be a benefit or it can be a detriment. A lot of the times, words that are, just because a word is considered a synonym, it doesn't mean that it's an exact match. We have different words for a reason. Words can mean close to the same thing, but maybe not always the same thing, and there might be some nuance there. So the translation may not work, particularly if it's a word that you don't know very well. And so you don't know how the context is actually supposed to be. If you use it, you may just be like kind of sounding silly, or you might misuse it. Here's an example. If you didn't know what the term death or sleep meant, but you saw that they were synonyms, you could see how it would be absurd to use them interchangeably. Now, people do use them interchangeably. They refer to death as the great sleep, but that is done as sort of a kind of lighthearted comparison, rest in peace kind of thing. Really, death is not sleep and sleep is not death. They may be synonyms in some context, but in their absolute definition, they are not the same thing. So this is the issue. You look up a word in a thesaurus, and it turns out that that word actually isn't a very good match or isn't an exact match. There are things that might make it a match under certain context or whatever. Another reason is that words in a thesaurus might be outdated. 200 years ago, people used the word bully to describe something that was interesting, or it's like our word for cool, right? Now, if you use the term bully, people think you're talking about kids that are mean to each other in the sandbox. So that is not the same. That context is completely different. So you got to be careful with stuff like that. Use word variants. Try to get the words from your own brain. Use your own vocabulary too. That's another point. The goal is not to sound smart. Like, don't try to put a bunch of big words in there and sound like you have this huge vocabulary if you don't. Use the vocabulary that you have. Try to be sophisticated. Try to maybe use words that you don't use all the time, but don't push yourself to this, to try to achieve this intellectual sound, because a lot of times that just waters down your meaning. If you say it plainly the way you would say it, you'll find a lot of times it translates a lot better. Now, the other thing I would say is avoid colloquialisms or cliches. That's the way the cookie crumbles. There are lots of colloquialisms, tons of things that we say in everyday speech. Even all in all, right? All in all, I think this. Well, all in all is kind of a colloquialism. It's like, all in all, what do you mean by that? Why are you using that, right? So the way that you determine it, colloquialism is something that is used in everyday speech. It's like the way that it's like informal speech or conversational speech. It's not what we're doing here, which is formal academic writing. So you should try to strive for a tone that embodies that, right? So you want to avoid cliches, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. Now, I know what you mean in that context, but it's figurative, it's weird, it's colloquial, and it's taking the place of something that you could be saying much more intricately and with much more nuance. Okay, so keep that in mind. What else do we got? Oh, the only other thing I would say is passive voice, passive and active voice. Let me pull that up real quick. You want to try for, hang on. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. Active versus passive voice. So you want to strive for active voice in your essay. Active voice is used for most non-scientific writing. Using active voice for the majority of your sentences makes your meaning clear for readers and keeps the sentences from becoming too complicated or wordy. Even in scientific writing, too much of passive voice can cloud the meaning of your sentences. Okay. The entrance exam was failed by over 1/3 of the applicants to the school. Okay, so the action is performed upon the sentence subject, meaning this sentence is passive, right? The action is performed on the subject. It's when the subject is performing the action that the sentence becomes active, as is the case here. Over 1/3 of the applicants to the school failed the entrance exam. Now you'll see, I think this is fewer words, yeah? Maybe one fewer word. So it might help with wordiness somewhat, but it also sounds better, right? It's because the subject performs the action. The brakes were slammed on by her as the car sped downhill. The brakes were slammed on by her. Wow, you'd see passive voice, like that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good. What sounds good? She slammed on the brakes as the car sped downhill. Again, the subject, she, performing the action, slamming on the brakes, right? Okay. Your bicycle has been damaged by agent omitted. He works for the CIA and he goes around bashing people's bicycles. That's a funny joke. I want you to take a second and consider how funny that is. Okay. I have damaged your bicycle. So I guess I was agent omitted. So big reveal, I'm the secret CIA agent that damages bicycles. But I have damaged your bicycle. Okay, so it's an example of an active voice sentence because the subject performs the action expressed by the verb, by the bird. Tweet, tweet. Okay. You can tell it's been a long day, folks. It's always a long day. I talk for 2 hours and then I come in here and I talk to you guys. Not to say that I could, I guess, do you guys first, but it's kind of early sometimes. I need my coffee. All right. Sentences in active voice are also more concise than those in passive voice because fewer words are required to express action in active voice than in passive. Action on the bill is being considered by the committee. The passive voice sentence is less concise than its active voice counterpart shown below. The committee is considering action on the bill, so it's fewer words, right? Helps you with wordiness. By then, the soundtrack will have been completely remixed by the sound engineers. The passive voice sentence is more wordy than an active voice version. By then, the sound engineers will completely remix the soundtrack. So we did. We cut out several words there. So active and passive voice can help you with wordiness, and it makes your writing sound clear. It makes you sound sure of yourself, right? Okay. Assertive. Okay. So the final couple of things I want to do, I want to look at the rubric. Give me 1 second. Okay, got it here. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So what we're going to take a look at now is the rubric for the essay. All right, so this is the essay rubric. And I will include in the comments on your essay why you lost points and from which category and why. Okay, like I will explain it. So there are 5 categories, each worth 20%. The first category is requirements met. So this is basically like, did you do what the assignment prompt asked you to do? Okay. Did you pick one strategy and not a mix of them? Did you have a clear topic? Did you have a thesis and topic sentences? Did you get to 1,000 words? Right? So all of those deductions for shortness, deductions for not following directions, deductions for not answering the question, all of those factor into requirements met. And as you can see here, there are different tiers for which you can lose points and descriptions of what each of those tiers looks like. The next is organization and content. Okay, so this is going to be your thesis, your topic sentences, your hook, line, and sinker, your conclusion. You know, anything that has to do with the structure of the essay, things being where they're supposed to be and structured the way they are supposed to be. That is organization and content. The next comes development and support. This is basically a catch-all for the other stuff. Is it wordy? Is there word variance? Are there a lot of alien landings? Is there good evidence to support stuff? Are the supporting details clear and concise? Anything else that doesn't fall under requirements met or organization and content basically falls under development and support. And you can lose another 20 points for that as well. So please keep that in mind. We want to try to be on it when it comes to the edits in particular, because that development and support, you can lose points there. MLA setup and documentation. This is the MLA format. And this is why we have to learn the dreaded MLA format. I hate it. Sometimes I get a well-written essay that doesn't adhere to an MLA format at all, and I have to start that person at an 80, even if their essay is really good. So you could write the best essay in the world and hand it in without any MLA format, and you would get an 80 on that essay. Of course, without the MLA, it's not really the best essay in the world, but you could do everything else perfectly, and you would get an 80 if you ignored MLA formatting. So please make sure you revisit the video I gave on this, as well as the content in the writing resources folder under lessons on Blackboard, because that is really key. Also, the Purdue OWL's got an excellent style guide, as I've mentioned. And then the final one is grammar and mechanics, which is 20%. Now, this is actually a cushion for a lot of people, because some people have a lot of errors. It depends on the student. Some people have more errors than others. The most you can lose for grammar and mechanics is 20%. So I know of other English teachers that do like 2 points per error for minor error and 3 points for major error. I don't do any of that. I follow this rubric. The most you can lose is 20%. And again, there are descriptions here of the tiers. I will send this rubric out for you so that you may read it at your leisure. But this is how you will be graded. So hopefully that clears it up a little bit. Like I said, I won't read all these tiers to you because it's kind of repetitive. But you can look at this on your own time. And you should know, when all is said and done, exactly why you got the grade that you got on your essay. Okay, and so to wrap up today, I want to give some comments about the Allegory of the Cave. I assigned the Allegory of the Cave because I think it is really important to understand the process of education and enlightenment and coming to an understanding of the world from a place of, I won't say ignorance, but that's the word I'm looking for, right? It's probably a little bit too strong in this case, but that's basically why I give it to you. The Allegory of the Cave is an allegory. What is an allegory? It's a representative story, okay? So you're going to read a story, and the story is going to be about these guys chained up in a cave, right? But actually, the meaning of the story, in other words, why it is important, it's really a dialogue, not a story. It's written as a conversation between two guys. That's not the important part. The important part is what is the representational meaning of this story. So I'll give you an example of an allegory. You think of the ugly duckling it's a story that we tell children to help with growing pains and like adolescent awkwardness and stuff like that. And the story goes like there were these 3 ducklings, and they had this one 4th duckling brother who was kind of ugly, and he spent his whole life kind of sad for himself because he was goofy looking, and the other ducks were kind of pretty when they were younger, and when they all got old, the other ducks were kind of just ducks, regular old brown ducks or whatever. And it turns out he was a swan, and so he grew into this beautiful thing, and la-ti-da. Okay, that is a lie that we tell children to help with growing pains. Joking, by the way, joking. And it is an allegory, right? Because on the one hand, you have a story about ducks and ducklings, and on the other hand, you have a story that's about growing into your body, right? Going through growing pains, adolescence, awkwardness, all of those things we have to go through as a youngster. And so that story kind of captures that in an allegorical sense. For this, in the same way, you should be reading Allegory of the Cave. So when you read Allegory of the Cave, ask yourself, what is the representational meaning of this? I know it is a story about gentlemen in a cave. What is it really? And what does it mean? And why is this weirdo professor making me read this for my English class? Okay. And then I will discuss Allegory of the Cave with myself in front of a camera. So it's not really a discussion with you, but I will talk about it in the forthcoming lecture, and hopefully you'll understand it a little bit more and why I made you read it. So that's all I'm going to say for today. Tomorrow I will try to post a virtual roast workshop not from your thesis statements, but from thesis statements of the past. So people who have taken my class in the past. And I will try to get that posted tomorrow. That'll give you a little more, just if you want the extra practice or you want to hear about like what makes a good thesis and what doesn't, and get that little bit of extra practice under your belt, I'll have that up there. That's not listed on the syllabus, but I'm going to do it just because I think it will help those of you that want to go the extra mile. Also, please remember that I am holding virtual conferences this Thursday. So far, I have not had anyone email me, even though I sent that out this morning. So please, I don't bite. I'm very nice. If you would like to come and have a video conference with me about your grades, about what you can do to ensure you get a good grade on the essay. Once you have the essay grade in the computer, the way that I've kept on top of this stuff, you will know exactly what your average is. And I would not consider dropping until you had the first essay. Your grade may look low now, but remember that the stuff that's in the computer is not very high in percentage, especially by comparison to the essay. So your standing in this class won't really be evident until the essay is turned in. And remember, that is this weekend. This weekend you have the essay and the quiz over the Allegory of the Cave. So if you did the Allegory of the Cave quiz last week, because I did mislist the date, you did it last week, hey, you're ahead. Okay, can't beat it. I looked, nobody got a terrible grade, so I'm sure you're not mad. This is good. So now you got one less thing to worry about, because the essay is the most important thing. So please take advantage of those conferences. Reach out to me. Set up an appointment. It'll be between the hours of 10 and 5 on Thursday. You got to make an appointment, and I'm going to step out for lunch at some point. So other than that, have an excellent week, and please let me know if there's anything I can help you with.